Listen to timely advice from experts as we discuss all things leadership and technology. You'll get the inside scoop on better business practices, from making the most of your technology to leading a company with your head and heart. Pull up a seat with Marco CEO Jeff Gow and President Doug Albrechts. Let's tech.
Welcome back to Let's Tech. At Marco, we've had the privilege of walking alongside many organizations as they continue to work through and to serve their customers and communities despite recent limitations. The YMCA is like many of Marco's customers have had to quickly adapt to these conditions of the pandemic and even reimagine its business model. In many cases, technology has played a key role in allowing them to achieve their goals and have meant the difference between staying open and quite frankly, closing. So nonprofits face different challenges than businesses, and they even have a greater social responsibility to meet. So I'm really pleased to introduce today a very special guest, a friend of mine, Greg Jake. Greg is the executive director. Did I got that title right?
Correct.
President, big dog.
CEO, executive director.
He's the leader, the top of the food chain at the YMCA. I've known Greg going back to 2009. He's been here 11 years ago, I understand, yesterday. So 11 years ago yesterday, he came to the YMCA after being a part of leadership at a high-growth YMCA in Wichita, Kansas. I had the privilege of going back to meet your former boss and to hear that story. He was very complimentary of you. He'd be real proud of you today, too, I can guarantee you. He cast a big vision for the St. Cloud YMCA. Greg did. He built one of the most expansive facilities in our nation in the YMCA organization. He's led efforts to quickly grow membership, actually quadrupled it in the last couple of years, and pursuing additional growth opportunities along the way. But then COVID-19 pandemic hits. What the heck? But that didn't stop the Y from serving the community, and he's continued to seek ways to grow it and assist others to do the same. What about this whole situation with the YMCA and closing? I mean, that's got to be a big deal to you, isn't it?
Yeah, at no point in my professional career would I thought that we'd be talking about shutting down the YMCA. This is an organization and a movement that's been going on for 185 years. And it was a big pause moment for us. And it was one of those moments too, though, Jeff and Doug, where we just, we knew we had to keep our mission going forward. And so then it was a matter of asking ourselves how we were going to reinvent ourselves in the process, like everybody else. And, for me as a leader, the one thing I kept reminding myself at the beginning of this was there's nothing that I could have done that would have prevented what was happening to us. And so that it was just a good positive moment to build on from there, is realizing that, hey, the environment changed on us, and now we've got to adapt with that.
Hey, Greg, it's very good to finally get the opportunity to meet you. I've heard a lot about you from Jeff, and it's all been good. So I know, we talk a lot about technology here. I know you're using technology. We're going to get into that, but your focus is really on health and fitness, and the easy way, during this pandemic is, the easy way out is just to stay closed and not serve your members during the shutdown. But you didn't do that. You stayed active. What have you done specifically to serve and protect members and employees just to stay open?
Doug, we viewed it as our responsibility. There's a physical health and then there's a mental health aspect of this also. And we also have services that are essential to our community. And so we were looking at multiple strategies at that time of how we're going to continue to impact. And we also knew that even though it wasn't just the Y that was shutting down, the community was shutting down, that we wanted to make sure that we help people stay physically active and keep it a priority, because your physical well-being is what's going to drive your mental well-being. And so we wanted to make sure that we could be a resource for people. So we quickly transitioned to technology. We had about a 10-day window where we knew this was coming. We knew we were staring down the path of having to shut down. And in 10 days, my team put together over 250 videos, anything from fitness to youth sports to reading books to children, anything that those families would do to recreate at the Y. We created the videos to make this happen. So while we had to close our physical building itself, our mission was going to continue to thrive on. And the only way we could do it was with the technology and using the virtual classes. And, this this strategy of taking the technology piece and the virtual piece into the Y business model.
Yeah.
We've been working on it, but COVID just accelerated that plan.
So we're pretty high on measuring our results, and I think you are too. So what were the results of that, Greg?
We continue to see the results. To give you a perspective, as a customer-facing organization that's now adjusting your business model to go further out into the community, because even as we went out into the community, it was still customer-facing. For example, fitness. We'd have a group exercise class where we could typically have 20 to 30 people in a class. Well, we're doing live classes now, and we're using Facebook as a vehicle. We're having consistent ranges of 1,000 people that were viewing in on these classes, and we were peaking at the nearly 2,000. One person in a class was reaching that many people. And then when you take the books and other things that we were doing too, our reach really went out. And so as Jeff's well aware of, our aspiration is to serve 30% of our community. And we had an hypothesis that, we'll use technology to help make this happen, but we didn't think it was going to, work in this manner, in this fashion. And we've even learned on top of that it's not just the fitness side. We were able to do virtual basketball skills and drills, soccer skills and drills, and really be a resource for families that, during that shelter in place and during the, winter kind of transitioning to the spring of central Minnesota, people were looking for activities for their kids to get involved with. And so we just leaned on that technology and it really worked for us. So we continue to see that reach continue beyond our walls and have that broader impact.
So, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the YMCA, I live pretty close to the Y. I think I'm within probably a mile of it as the crow flies, or the bike rides in this case. And it's also one of my very favorite places. My wife and I love to go to the Y and work out. I was there yesterday, by the way. So tell me, how did you sustain during the shutdown and afterward? I mean, I was a little worried as a member. By the way, I kept paying my membership.
Thank you for that.
I didn't want you to go to like zero revenue, like which could happen, as revenue becomes, that wasn't in the business plan. But how did you sustain it during the shutdown? And then even afterward, you're working on a whole different, set of rules now.
Immediately, we leveraged the communication technology piece and really began to reach out to our members and keep them informed. Keep them informed of what programming was still open, because while the building was closed for a lot of the fitness and recreational elements of it, we made sure that our community knew that essential service of supervised visits and exchanges was going to continue. And Jeff, I know you understand what that is, but Doug, for you, we have a social work department at RY, and we've been partnering with counties and the court systems and families that are fractured and going through divorce. There's at times where the non-custodial parent or even grandparents, the only way they can see them is by working with a social worker. And so we were able to keep our doors open during that time to make sure that these families would continue to be able to come together and build their foundation as a family at the Y. So we wanted to make sure that, to your point, Jeff, that while you couldn't come and work out or use the pools and use the basketball courts, that our mission was still being provided and serving for our community. And so that was a critical piece, the over-communication and using technology to help make that happen. And then those virtual and on-demand platforms. Within 2 weeks, we went from no platform to then integrating all the technology that we had on hand, and we had to make a few more purchases, and it worked out well for us. It still is a growing process for us, but that's where we continue to learn and adapt from the early mistakes of transitioning into an unknown market that we just didn't know.
Plan C, right?
Yep, Plan C. We continue to evolve.
Always an important question for us, Greg, is, of course, around technology and how that helps businesses. And specifically, how has technology helped your organization over at the Y?
When we built this building, and again, our building's just a little over 3.5, 4 years old, we invested in a lot of technology knowing that that's where the future is going. So
I think we even got to help you out with some of that, didn't we?
Absolutely. No, we did. We partnered with Marco, and we'll give the kudos to Marco from
We're not credit takers, so I don't want to be thinking that's what we were trying to do there.
No. You want me to do it now or save it for later? I can do it now or later, whichever way. Okay, we'll wait till later. But no, what we did, though, is we made sure that we were integrating technology, thinking for the future, thinking 5 and 10 years out. Because, again, we knew we were going to head down these virtual classes for group exercise. We knew we were going to bring on different technology of mobile apps, things of that nature, that we were going to need wireless in our building to help support people. Even in the fitness industry, you can see pieces of equipment now that have monitors on that you can now Bluetooth connect to them. And we knew that this was the place that we needed to move towards as we were bringing technology into our spaces. Well, now what we had to do is think differently. So to give you a perspective is right now with with us being shut down at the time because of the Minnesota Department of Health and the governor's enforcement at that time.
Order, I think the term was order.
Thank you. And so what we had to do, though, is like right now, our group exercise classes, we cannot fill them to the room's capacity. So because the technology was already there, all we've done is now we put a monitor in our other studio. We're going to wire in and we're going to do live feeds. And so that way we can now expand the service at the Y, but then we're also going to add additional technology in, and we're going to be able to do those live classes that we'll then be able to record and put them onto an on-demand platform that now our members are going to be able to use for years to come, and we'll keep muscle building those platforms and those resources for people to be active. We're going to continue to look at those technology pieces. And, Jeff, as a consumer, you've been able to see that with our new mobile app, we now have reservation platforms that people are able to engage in to help them make sure that when they get the class that they have that. And also just a hands-free check-in now, using that technology.
This check-in and check-out procedure, I was very impressed when I came to the Y and I used my app and they take your temperature, you scan in. I got to believe some of these technologies are going to be, I think you've alluded to it, but they're going to be just part of how the Y operates going forward. So out of kind of a bad thing comes sustainable opportunities. Are there some of these things? I know you mentioned health, fitness monitors, you got the check-in. What kind of other things are there that are just going to be with us going forward because they're a better way to do it?
Yeah, I think just like you were talking about, that check-in app is one of those that's really very convenient. And, another piece that we've done for our membership is that on our homepage, there's actually a usage of how many people are actually in the building. And so therefore, people can go on and just see how busy it's going to be. So before they come to their workout, if they want to work out with fewer people around, or if they want to be around with a larger group, those virtual platforms that I was talking about, it's providing us now for an opportunity for expanding our business, expanding a revenue line for us. We even found out during the pandemic that people were connecting with us from southern Minnesota, people that have lived here, that have moved away, that they are now connecting through these virtual platforms. So we found a new revenue line. And when I say found, again, we were looking and leaning in down those paths to begin with, but it's just definitely accelerated our path as far as moving it forward as quick as we can. And we're excited for it, and we're excited to see what happens with the community. And Jeff, to your point, we're going to continue to look at technology and how it's going to help navigate different ways to serve away from the Y. Our long-term aspirations, as I alluded to earlier, is to serve 30% of our community. And we've just now understand that we can do it at the Y as well as away from the Y. And people are time stressed, and that's the whole purpose of this. We want to be helping people that are time stressed and leveraging that technology to make it an easy choice for them to be healthy and active. And we're excited to see how that continues forward.
Good.
So, Greg, our Y in where I live here in Mountain Lakes, New Jersey, has been closed, and I don't really know if they've tried to reopen or not. But I think, again, that's been a little bit of the easy way out. Now, you've been able to reopen and stay open when many others around the country haven't. Some Ys are still closed and are closed for good. So how have you been able to do it? How have you been able to reopen?
What we had to do is we really had to take a step back and look at all the positions that we have in place, and we wanted to prioritize the well-being of our community. We wanted to make sure that we were going to continue to be that resource. And so when we talk about those virtual platforms that we were providing while the community was in our shelter in place, these were all free resources to our community. So it wasn't just serving the Y membership. It was serving our Y community.
So diversification comes into play. We hear that in our for-profit businesses, but what a good strategy to have an element of diversification. Yeah. Tell me, this is the one I was curious about because I couldn't help but drive by every day. I mean, literally every day, twice a day. And there weren't any cars in the parking lot other than a skeletal crew and serving, like you said, limited customers. Of course, I'm going to work at 6:45 because I'm an early bird. The membership, how do you sustain that? I actually felt obligated to continue my membership because I wanted the Y to be there. I wanted to be there when we got back. But what kinds of things did you have to do to sustain that? Because that sounded kind of hard.
Well, we knew we needed to get creative. And to give you an example, we wanted to make sure that our seniors stay connected to the Y. What we did was we were reaching out to them. We were making phone calls to every one of our senior members just to check in with them, see how they're doing, making sure that they're doing well. And if they needed somebody to go run an errand for them, go pick something up, pick up their medicines, whatever it may be, we wanted to let them know that we're going to be there for them. And then we asked them, would you like us to call you back? Because during this pandemic that we're in, it's not only just the physical well-being that we're concerned about, it's that mental health piece of it too. And so we wanted to make sure that we were connecting with people, because the reason why organizations like the Y thrive is that as people, we want to connect. We want relationships. We want to use our senses with each other. And so we had to leverage technology all the way up to the point of touch and being able to stay connected with them. The other thing that we wanted to make sure too is that people reminded themselves that we're more than just a gym and swim. We remind them about those other non-gym and swim activities that helped us stay connected. So, Jeff, we constantly communicated what we were doing, keeping them up to date of the impact that we're having outside of the walls as well as inside the walls. And we also wanted to remind them that we were doing everything we could to make sure that we kept as many employees employed during that time. So we were being great stewards of our financial resources and making sure that we could take care of the well-being of our employees. And we communicated that message also. So that just helped us build that momentum towards a phased approach. And Doug, you were asking earlier about, how is it that we're able to open? We took a very methodical approach to it. We followed all the recommendations of what the governor had to say, but we didn't just open up the doors and say, hey, everybody, welcome back, let's go. No, we made sure that safety protocols were in place and that we also had the opportunity to phase in opening to get everybody comfortable with the new way of doing business.
Well, we know you're much more than just fitness. And I think one of the questions everybody's going to want to hear, what moves have you made to be resilient during a time when other fitness centers have had to close? I mean, that continues to be our theme.
The resilience starts with being compassion. It's having compassion towards our team. And we had to make some difficult decisions. We furloughed the majority of our part-time employees. And we retained a few of them, knowing that there were some of those essential product lines that we were still going to be able to provide to our community at that time. And so as we were making those difficult decisions, we wanted to make sure that the well-being of all of our employees was taken care of. And so as we were being resilient, during that time, I guess we made sure that we were in constant communication with our employees. We were phone calling and making sure that they were doing well. And then we just made sure that we had frequent and consistent communication, not only with our employees, but then also with our members. And the reason being was because we knew we were going to open back up. And we have quality people that we surrounded ourselves with.
So very intentional.
It was very intentional. And we wanted to make sure that when we were able to rehire and get people back into the Y as we opened up the Y, that they were excited and they felt that they were also being served, loved, and cared for during this process. And so that serve, love, and care mentality that we have towards our membership, we also needed to have towards our employees to make sure that we were whole.
Hey, by the way, shifting gears a little bit, we're really proud to have the YMCA as a customer, and I mean that. And you've been a client of ours for a long time, and maybe just real quickly, how did Marco kind of help you out in all this? Because this is a little bit about technology. It's a lot about leadership. It's talking about resiliency and a lot of good things come out as sometimes not so good things. But this particular scenario, how'd Marco help you out in this new YMCA and in the technology that's involved there?
I would even take it a step back when we were, building the building and saying we wanted to plan for the future. But where Marco really helped us out is, you helped with the strategies on technology, and that helped us really set the path for that future. And that infrastructure, allowed us to move a little bit quicker when we had to adapt and when we had to start doing things virtually. We started doing recording of classes. So consulting with Marco and analyzing the technologies that we had in place, what additional resources that we needed to have, that helped us move this platform along at an accelerated plan. And because we had that long-term relationship, we already knew each other. And the reality is, from technology side, you know us better than we know ourselves. And so that helps us. Statement. That helps us as we continue to move forward to look at what additional resources we need to take those next steps, as we're putting in cameras and doing other great things.
Great.
Well, another interesting stakeholder here is the community of St. Cloud. And Jeff and I talk a lot about how important that is to Marco. And I'm sure it's of vital importance to what you do. So I think, how does the community support come into play into all of this?
It's paramount. We can serve our community, but we cannot reach everyone in our community without partners like Marco. This is what happens with partnership. It takes probably at the time, Jeff, when we initially came and even spoke about, the potential of a capital project, you get this new guy in the town that's bringing you a pretty bold and audacious vision. And we knew, though, if we didn't have community partners, it just is a vision. It doesn't become reality. And I think that Jeff and many of the other community partners that we have a new investment for the why and for the community because they just have so much passion for it. And that's where that relationship happens. And we have, large fundraisers every year. This allows us to make sure that what I feel is the most important words in our mission statement is for all. We could not be for all without community partners.
I got one of these, or I have one of these, home gyms. Tell me a little bit about that phenomenon. A lot of people had home gyms. It was even hard, I think it might still be, to buy equipment. Is that going to sustain? Is that one of those things that comes about that's going to sustain?
There's always been home gyms, and they're not going to go away. With technologies we've all seen, the WISE virtual platform is not the only virtual platform. There's other resources. We work on building relationships, and people want those relationships. People need accountability. It's something we keep an eye on, but we want to make sure that we also continue to serve the majority of people that are out there. And whether it's virtual or not, we'll take care of it.
Oh, gosh. When we think about COVID-19, it's just going to have enduring, lasting impacts on our business, and I think across the country, no matter what business you're in, and I think that all of us have to figure out, how do we sustain our business moving forward, and I guess what I'd like to know from you, Greg, is how has COVID-19 impacted your business model?
We think that there's going to be a comeback to what is going to be a new normal. We have new business models that have occurred out of this pandemic that's going to help us financially. But we also know this, is that we have a board of directors and a leadership team that is dedicated to make sure that the Y will serve our community for the next 50 years. During the pandemic, we were going to celebrate our 50 years of serving the St. Cloud community, and we're not celebrating so much right now. So we're looking forward to telling the story of what the next 50 years of a service to our community is going to look like.
What a nice milestone. Thanks for being our guest today. Thanks for running a great operation in one of my very, very favorite places to go, which is our local YMCA. And I know that that's a national brand, and hopefully the YMCAs around the country are doing as well as you are. We really appreciate that. But let's not forget we need the community support to keep it sustainable and to keep them in mind when they're thinking about ways to continue to invest in their community for all. Thanks again for being a part of this episode of Let's Tech. Don't forget to subscribe. And by the way, leave us a review because we really, really do appreciate those, especially if they're good. And of course, you know what to do if they're not. Thanks again, and Let's Tech.